Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 512, and today we're doing battle in the world's last chance qualifier. And so, as we say at the beginning of all the best of 3 videos, if you want to see any of these decks in action a little bit more in depth, you can just scroll backwards through the channel. We've covered most of it in great detail. And so, as we can say with that, we're going to be playing Jax Ornn. We've played a ton of it across the channel. We're playing Formidables today. We've played a ton of it across the channel. And then one of the new brews in the Kayle Zolani Yordles deck. We haven't covered off on yet, but we have played a ton of Yordles, so hopefully that does feel a little bit familiar. So if you're wanting to skip the best of 3 chit chat, feel free to go ahead and jump in on the gameplay. If you want to hear how we got to this lineup, feel free to stick around for a little bit longer. And so with this format, this standard format, it's a very odd set of circumstances surrounding this standard format, as the beginning of the season was Eternal, right? The Eternal season starts up with the release of the Variety patch, and then we played a week and a half, 2 weeks of Eternal, and immediately switched over to Standard to get prepared for this event. And so in terms of the preparation for this event, it's a very short week. It's kind of, not a lot of time to come in and have the meta settle and brew up new decks and stuff. And so I really expect this format to look a whole lot like the previous format, even though as you go and look at the stats look stupid, right? The stats are a bunch of Gwen Zed on top, a bunch of Lurk on top, a bunch of Annie Jhin up at the top. The things you see whenever the competitive scene goes over to Eternal, it's just a bunch of nonsense, shitty aggro decks up at the top of the meta. And so it's kind of tough to balance what we expect to see. I personally think this is going to look extremely, extremely similar to the balance patch meta with Nilah, Janna up at the top, but there are going to be that aggro influence on this format, given that if people just want to come in and play the event, you go to runeterra.ar, you grab the top 3 decks on the list, you have your lineup now, boom, we're playing Gwen Zed today. And so I expect quite a bit of both pieces of that to come into play. But as far as the lineup goes for me, I wanted to play a bunch of decks we were familiar with. I spent the first couple of days of this week trying to brew, see if anything new was going to come into line. The only real mechanic, the real new addition to this format coming out of the Variety patch is the Nox and Dragon plus Might. We played a little bit of the Nox and Dragon across the course of a few different decks. I didn't like any of them, so we left that, and then we're just going to the familiarity of the previous patch. And so that's why you're going to be seeing the Jax, Ornn, and the Formidables. They fit the things that I like to do, very strong mid-rangey style of decks, and they're tied into the strategy that we're going to be playing today. And so the way that this lineup has come together, we can pull off of here and bring it up just a little bit. The things that I expect to have happen in this format are both Nilah, Janna, and Seraphine Sett are going to be quite popular. In my opinion, Nilah, Janna is still just the best deck in the format. Why it is like 15th in the meta rankings is beyond me. But what I really suspect is going to happen is the competitive players are going to come out. They're going to play some of these new decks. They're going to play Gwen Zed. They're going to play their favorite flavor of Nox and Dragon. They're going to say these cards are all garbage. I'm going to go back to the previous format and try Nilah, Janna and be like, oh man, Nilah, Janna still fucks. And so like I'm just going to bring this deck because it literally annihilates like the top 8 decks listed on the meta report. And so I'm going to put that in my lineup. And so the thing that I really expect out of a lot of the competitive scene this week is they're going to fall back to the old standbys in Nilah, Janna and Seraphine Sett, and then there's also going to be a metric fuck ton of Jax Ornn. And so the way that I've really kind of designed this lineup, the way we want it to go, I'll go through the process in just a moment, is I wanted decks that were good against Nilah, Janna, and Seraphine Sett, and then that's probably too much of an ask to throw Jax Ornn into the mix, and so we're just going to ban Jax Ornn. And so we can pull this up and show you how we walked through it in just a moment, but that's the general idea, right? I want decks that are good against Nilah, Janna, which the Freylord mid-range tends to be. I want decks that are good against Seraphine Sett. I expect it to show up quite a bit. And then, Jax Ornn, it's such a different variety than the PNZ Mystic Shot based removal decks that you probably can't get good decks against all 3, and so that's just where the bans are going to be coming in. And so to hit on real quick with how you can do this on your own if you're wanting, I just went over to Legna's site, the LLORR-stats.com. It's a mouthful to say. If you just Google search it, it's much easier to turn up. You can type in Nilah, Janna, and Seraphine Sett as the deck lists up at the top, and then I just sort by the opponent column. And what that lets you do is you can just go through here. The blue bars are positive matchups for Seraphine Sett. The red bars are negative matchups for it, and we're just looking for decks that provide negative matchups to both the decks. And so you can start to see some in here. The Seraphine Sett, Nilah, Janna, both weak against Aurelion Soul Volibear. It's not a deck we're going to play, but this is the kind of idea that we're looking for. We can see another one down here with Bard Janna. And so Bard Janna has a good matchup against Seraphine Sett. Bard Janna has a good matchup against Nilah Janna. That's a deck that we could consider playing, right? It attacks with units. I like to do that kind of thing. And so I basically just went through and took note of all of the decks in this way. So there's the Caitlyn Teemo Puffcaps deck, which I brewed a bit with this week, didn't really like. Darius Gnar turns up on the list. That's a deck we could definitely see ourselves playing. You see a ton of flavors of Galio. So Formidables probably fit in this some way. So you have Garen, Galio, Galio, Garen, Jarvan, Galio, Jarvan, Galio, Udyr. These are all the same. These are all just Formidables. Demacia Freylord decks. We'll take note of that. Looking a bit more, there's Gnar Jarvan, just another Demacia Freylord deck. And so you can go through the whole thing, find these decks, pick out the ones you like, remove the ones that you don't. And so that gets us up to this kind of short list of decks, the things that I was actually considering playing in this format. Looks like Scouts, Jax, Ornn, Darius, Gnar, Galio, Jarvan, Kayle, Teemo, Poro King, Bard Janna, and then Jax Bone Club. And so that short list of decks that are good against Nilah, Janna, and Seraphine Sett, I then wanted to check out to see if it was close against Jax, right? We're playing Jax. We can ourselves, if we do play Jax ourselves, we can look to have a mirror match. Otherwise, are the matchups good or close enough to good to where we don't hate it? And it's not great, right? The Scouts is at like 40%. That's not quite good enough. We're looking for things at like 45% plus, which you could get from Kayle, Teemo to a degree. It just doesn't look good, so we're probably just going to come out and ban Jax Ornn. And so that's how we really kind of narrowed down this selection of decks. Moving forward a little bit, I did want to check how our decks looked against the Gwen decks and then the Teemo, Tristana, Noxus deck. Teemo, Tristana, Noxus doesn't have enough stats to turn up, but Gwen Zed does. None of our matchups here are particularly good. I did stop and consider the idea of playing Scouts, since Scouts can hold its own against Gwen Zed, and then decks like Kayle, Teemo, just the big flood the board with unit style of things, can hold up a little bit better, but we'll just assume that that's going to be a bad matchup if it turns up. But I have skewed our deck lists to kind of manage this, right? I don't want to particularly be good against Gwen Zed, but being good against Annie Jhin and being good against Teemo, Tristana is something that we have a little bit of focus on. And so, to talk about each of our individual decks, it's a little bit of a mixture of the Jax Ornn deck. I kind of call this the 50-50 Jax Ornn, to where, why not just half-ass the whole event, right? You typically want to be whole-assing one thing very well, but we're out here half-assing just a little bit with this Jax Ornn. But the idea and concept behind this is, both flavors of Jax Ornn are good against Seraphine Sett. The problems that you run into against Seraphine Sett are when you get stuck having to be singularly strong with one unit. And so if you have to rely on Ornn to win the game, they're able to play concussive palms and stuff and shut down that singular unit. And so the way that we are actually looking to win that fight is with Wild Claw's Ferocity and getting in with the focus speed, big overwhelming style of attacks. And this deck looks to accomplish that a little bit more. I don't want to get stuck in this space to where we don't have enough mid to late game to handle decks like Seraphine Sett, but the big boon, the big thing I'm actually worried about in this format is playing against something like Gwen Zed, and then you draw 2 copies of Ornn, right? You're just never winning that game. That game is unwinnable. And so as I expect, the aggro decks to kind of push a bit forward towards the front end of this meta, I wanted to cut down on our top end in terms of what Ornn is doing. And so with that in mind, we're playing two Bone Clubs, 2 Ornns is our top end. We have this thing that I really, really like to do in kind of Yordle, Jinx Kennen style of metas as to where we play a whole bunch of 2-3 units, and so we have both Favored Artisan and Frostcoat Cubbin here, able to get in front of things like Redeemed Prodigy and all of the Yordles and everything, try and develop a lot of 2-for-1s in the early game, and then buy us the time that we need for the Bone Club and the Ornns to develop against those aggro matches. And so, again, we're heavily skewed forward, right? I want to hopefully be strong enough against those aggro decks while not giving up what makes us good against decks like Seraphine Sett. Moving over next to the Formidables, the note that I haven't quite talked about at this point is that that Tristana deck with the mites and the dragons in it. I do want all of our decks to have some way to handle a mited dragon and 11 attack overwhelm. So we have the 2-3 sisters, Harsh Winds coming out of the Jax Ornn. Over here, we are playing the full 3 copies of 3 Sisters within the Formidables, along with the Gentleman's Duels to potentially take that unit down. You do see a lot of that, push forward to the early game here with the full 3 copies of Badger Bear, and that's the kind of same idea that we have coming out of this. Just a very front focus style of deck to where we don't cut any of the cheap plays and then try to have answers to those big units. Last but not least is Teemo Kayle. This may not be a deck that you're familiar with. It really kind of started to pop off with this format. The update to Yordle Explorer gives us a 2-3 unit, which is good up in that front side that we're trying to do. Also boosts the attack of all the Yordles you're going to be playing. The boosted attack of the Yordles then ties into strength with Kayle and strength with Zolani. There's a lot of decks in this format that cannot handle a Zolani. Doesn't even need to be a 16-16 one. A 10-10 Zolani is often enough to just beat Seraphine Sett or beat a random Nora deck or something, and so a lot of power coming out of that. But again, as we mentioned with the Might decks running around, the way that we're trying to take advantage of those and get a little bit of shutdown with it is going to be coming from the silences out of this. We have the 2 Tellstones to generate hushes with the Moonlit Affliction, but one of the problems you can run into is you can't might away, or you can't silence away an equipment's overwhelm. So if your opponent has Fish a Whack off of an improvise, or if they're actually playing overwhelm hammers, you can't take that off, and so we do have a single copy of Wallop in here, along with the Conchologist able to generate Wallops as additional ways to shut down that big overwhelm attack. And so that's it. That's the lineup, a very aggro forward focused lineup that should be good against Seraphine Sett, but then again modified a little bit to have game against those aggro decks I expect to be turning up. And then we have a handful of answers to the big might plays across the course of the format. And so before the battles begin, you know what we have to do. We have to get the advantages where we can. We have to come in and pay that pay-to-win price. And we're pretty well paid up on this, right? We played tons of Bone Club, everything in here, all premium and skinned up. Same thing with the Formidables, but I did notice Kayle. I thought the Sun Eater Kayle came out of the Battle Pass, and you just got it for free, but I think that might have been a Leona or a Diana or something. I'm not entirely certain what it was, but we have it now. The lineup is set. We're good to go. Let's jump on in to battle. All right. So let's see what turns up. I'm not certain what these queue times are going to be like. This is a little bit earlier than I typically jump into these. I usually get in the middle of the day in the afternoon or so. We're only at about just a little bit before 10 a.m. And so let's see if we have to sit through these 20-minute queues. But otherwise, I think it'll turn up quick. It seems like there's always like one dude in Europe that tries to queue up exactly when the event opens and nobody's playing, and they have to sit through 15-minute queues. See, that wasn't so bad. But let's see, what are we up against here? This is a very off-meta lineup. I'm not entirely certain what this stuff is. Karma Jhin, I have to be certain is fine. What is this? Tryndamere Lucian, I would expect that's kind of like a boat stack. I think that we can beat that. The thing that would worry me is just Zed getting out of hand in this matchup. So let's just go ahead and take Zed out of the way and do battle with the remaining 2. He takes out the Formidables. We can kick it off with Jax Ornn. See how it goes. I wonder if this is gonna. It strikes me as being like Lucian Tryndamere strikes me as being like a ramp deck, but I don't know. I guess in terms of the big battle boat, you're going to be playing like a multitude of champions, right? And so we'll just have to see. But I wanted to mulligan for early drops in here, right? We have six 1-drops, 9 2-drops. We didn't have any in our opener, so I just went ahead and took the full mulligan. Tried to find a more battle-ready unit. It turned up. We got the favorite artisan. She can do combat against all of these friends that are on the board. Big shutdown. This is when we're talking about wanting to have 2 3s in this format, like this is kind of it, right? Things like Fleet Feather Tracker is turning up in this match, but against things like Yordles, just a ton of 2/2 units coming from it. And so hopefully we can grab a bit of an advantage there. So a bit of an awkward start. Didn't have an additional early game play, but you know, if we're developing 2-for-1s, it's not that bad, and then we can start building up with the combat cook.
I'm what nightmares fear.
It's tempting to just go ahead and take down the Senna. You have to worry a little bit about Lucian's coming up. It's like, what would scare me with this deck? Flipped Lucian. That's certainly one way to cause a problem. Alright, though, Combat Cook can come in. I think we just want to have, like, the defensive stuff here. I know we have Fish a Whack with Ornn in hand, but I just kind of feel like if we can drag this game out a little bit, we're going to be okay. Like, he's playing a bunch of units that are still just getting shut down by Hertha, and so I think that's all well and good. I'll just take the damage from Senna. I don't think we're at any risk of coming out here and dying. And so let's just preserve the mana, right? Getting in front of this quick attacky combat cook, or this quick attacky Senna gives us the chance to, just come out and lose some combats. I'm not quite ready for that. So combat cook coming in. We'll take the Fish a Whack on this one. We're going to be a little bit more combat focused coming out of this attack. I think that's going to be fine. Right now that we aren't facing down Senna's quick attack, these units aren't nearly as scary.
I'm glad I have you.
That'll never change.
All right, well, there's the combo. There's the friends. Scary stuff. He's gonna get the chance for the boosted Senna, but that's fine, right? If we get to take the Lucian off the board and then his Senna gets strong, I think that's okay. We're just gonna end up trading in combat either way, but the Lucian getting strong is what's problematic. Sorry, girl. Sorry your boy had to die in combat like that. What else? What else are you supposed to say?
Better get the forge going.
Alright, so let's get the apprentice on board. I was kind of considering just going ahead and dropping the combat reel, since it does give us good fish fights, right? If a bigger unit comes down on board, we have a pretty strong fish fight in that space, but I think we can just look to end here, especially with the Bright Steel Protector coming in and us picking up the Frostcoat Mother. We can get the big Overwhelm attack in with the Frostcoat Mother. We can combat Reeler. Ornn can copy the Fish a Whack for the big Overwhelms. I think we're just good to go at this point.
My steel is yours.
Interesting. We'll just take this.
Here, let me see that.
Big Overwhelms. Always feels good. Always feels good. In the Bone Club. We could look to use Ornn to copy the Bone Club, but I think this is going to be fine. So no Rams coming out of this. Right, we haven't got that big 8-power attack in yet, that 8-power strike, but we should be getting the Ornn flip in here and closing this one out soon. Opponent drops a GG. Look at that. Hoping to see a lot of this animation today.
A job well done.
Okay. on with the Teemo Kayle. Get those Zolanis up and active. Whew. Probably just want to get some siren songs out here, right? that's the last time Zolani really caught a lot of the action. I guess she has been kind of a fixture of the Targon based Poros deck, but I that was one of the things I had actually considered for this, was to bring the two Zolani decks, this one and then also the Poros, but I don't know, the Poros feels like a deck that we should be like understanding and getting. It never quite clicks for me in terms of when to play the Poros snacks at the right time and when to develop the units and when to trade them away. It's a deck I looked at and been like, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of units with Poros snacks. I should be able to pick this up and just get it and go. But I was playing it poorly, and so I didn't feel like I had the time to pick up the knowledge to play Poros well enough. Oh, did the game break? Okay, well, I don't know what happened. I don't know if the opponent disconnected or what, but we got the victory. We'll take the wins where we can get them. Move on to the next one. So what do we have here? We can pull this up if we want to. This is probably going to be a ban onto Galio Udyr. We can pull up this thing real quick. Galio Udyr turns up. We've got Nilah Janna that we're never banning, and then Aatrox Kayn is the other option. And it looks like, you know, there's a couple of weak matchups across the board. The Galio Jarvan weak to the other Galio, and then I think the Aatrox matchup should just be fine. And so I'm going to look to take the Galio Udyr out, and then we're never banning Nilah Janna. Okay, so we'll kick it off with the Formidables. What do we got? We can hang on to this Durandi Sculptor. I don't think we need to keep the combat trick to go along with her. Just look for some other early plays, get involved in the early game here. Pioneer turned up, very, very strong and important unit in this this equipment-based matchup. And so we'll see if that high roll of a unit turning up gives us a bit of an edge in this match.
Needs a finishing touch.
All right, no early plays from the opponent. Interesting. There's not too much he can really do to harm us here. I think we just want to add the biggest play. And then next turn I'm looking to just add in the Pioneer so that we have access to the equipment thing, right? His angle here has to be that he's going to play like the 4-mana Cultist and then put an equipment on it. And we just have like the shutdown ready. He goes Ballista. I'm gonna let that one hang out. You know, if he played a Darkened Spear, or not the Spear, if he played the Harp, the quick attack one, that's something that I would look to get in front of. Now that Kayn comes on board, we don't have to worry about Kayn too much. We do have access to the 3 sisters at the moment. I do enjoy taking down the Kayn equipment, though. Taking down the Darkened Scythe, it really limits what he's able to do in terms of getting those level ups in. But let's just pass. Let's see how this goes. So I'm pretty confident he's going to be sending units in here. So what this is probably going to be a Kayn attack into the Durandi Sculptor. And then I suspect he might have like the combat trick in hand, which is fine. If he has the combat trick, he's still not going to win the combat. He's just going to not lose it. So we can try and Fury of the North through this. If he doesn't have the cheap combat trick and we just win the combat, fucking awesome, right? But if we end up bouncing here, we do have the challengers to try and take Kayn down next turn. Oof. Oof. That's all you can say about that, my friend. That does not feel good for you. So what I'm looking at now is I like this as an open attack, then we'll follow up with a unit, and then next turn we'll just play champion strength. I think I'm definitely on board with this. So Defector comes in, that's fine. You know, he's probably going to equip. You know, just with the way the game sequenced, it was not a... it was just a spot very open to get tempoed out. All right. Bring the strength of the champions. All right, looking good. GG. On to the next one. That's tough for opponent, though. Anytime you go through the first 3 turns of the game without putting a unit on board, it's typically bad news bears for you. I mean, there's some decks that are designed to do it and handle it right. If you're playing ramp or something, then fine, whatever. But these unit-based decks with a ton of equipment in it can't go that deep without adding a unit to the board. So we'll see how this goes. It looked like from the matchup thing that if we're up against Aatrox Kayn, it should be a tougher match for our Kayle Teemo, but certainly in the realm of winnable. All right, no early plays though. We gotta take the full mulligan on this one. Teemo turns up. All of his Yordle friends turn up. All right,
2, 3, 4.
let's get him into battle.
Swiftly. This doesn't mean everything.
Right away. Oh yeah, so much Teemo.
I slay horrors and I smile.
I mean, what are the chances on this next turn that we actually just go for the Teemo flip? Like, it's pretty scary, right? In terms of investing the 2 Teemos in hand just to have opponent come in and play a Mystic Shot. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I'm going to pick up the plus attack things here so we can try and attack with our squires. Yeah, I don't think it's on the table in terms of attacking with Teemo, or going for the Teemo flip. Did have the Mystic Shot. So not a spectacular attack, but I'm not quite willing to throw these units or throw these spears onto units in the face of the Owlcat, and you know we can combat against Nilah after this. There we go with the pie toss. Okay. Poor Teemo. He's trying his hardest to come out here and get a flip in, but nobody wants to let him do it. So what do we got out of the Conchologist? A fairly weak set of cards. I don't hate Poro stories, right? It does give us 3, attacky style of units, but I think I'm leaning just towards taking the Heavens Aligned.
Let us take a peek at life beneath the waves.
Convert it into a unit or something. What are the chances he ever comes in and kills our Bando Commando? I don't think it's particularly high. Let's spread these out though. Like, he did play Make It Rain. That's not a card you see a ton. And then spreading out the damages does help level up our Kayle. I was worried it's like, if we come in and add Bandle City Mayor, do we lose out on any of our attacks? And we do, right? It's a real thing. Janna was the perfect card to showcase that.
My tempest shall punish the wicked.
Bummer to see the Mayor go. I was really hoping to play the Shark Trainer and the Teemo. So as this goes, I want to play the Heavens Aligned as a Nightfall, right? I want to be able to
Leap of faith, huh? You'll catch me, right?
to get the bigger units off of it. So we'll see if that makes itself apparent here. The pastry into his blocker feels good. We're about to fill out board anyways. Never blocking Janna. Okay, that was fine. We pick up a Sunforger. Could definitely be relevant. Getting the life steal against a deck with a ton of burn in it. It's like if we had Teemo, he's just gonna die, right? But he's kind of got to block some of this stuff. Okay, that works out. Right, it's like we can still add the unit on the board, and if he has to block something with the augmented clockling, it's not that bad.
Leap of faith, huh? You'll catch me, right?
But he's definitely getting active here. We need to present something very serious this round.
The Zephyr Herald.
hungry today. I trust their diet excludes yodels.
Sunken Temple. That's not what you're looking to put on the board right before this giant attack rolls in. He must feel safe though, right? He doesn't have 2 burn spells to cast in the middle of this combat or something.
Shields us.
Okay. Still pretty healthy. I mean, getting that Janna off of the board feels pretty good. Down to 3. Down to 2. All right, we'll be refilling quickly.
Of course, expeditions lead to acquisitions.
So add the Explorer first. He's running out of time to get to attack with this augmented clockling, so let's go ahead and add Teemo in now. We lose out on a point of mana this way, but I'm pretty certain that that's okay. Take the blocks where we can win, and then we'll look to refill the board. Okay. So Bandle City Mayor comes down. I mean, he'd probably just take another Shark Trainer, right? I feel like he has to have a hard time stopping these. He's going to have 2 draws for the next turn. You know, if he kills 1 Shark Trainer, oh, shit, just takes 4. Just takes 4 Puff Caps. Don't even have to worry about it. All right, GG. Seeing those Puff Caps. I guess he... Oh, we don't get buys in this thing, huh? Oh, we got to switch it back to 2-0. I just immediately thought that we got the buys in this for the Prime Glories as well. So much for that. Guess we're going to be in here for a longer day, huh? And so, as far as these go, I'm not going to pull up the matchups here. I don't entirely know what the Samira deck is, but I have to assume it's some kind of discard aggro style of thing, and then we're going to leave Nilah Janna up. So we're going to take Garen out of the mix. Jump back in with ours. Again, as we've kind of developed these decks to have a lot of good early game stuff, we should have stuff that's good in the face of Samira, good in the face of these just early game plays. I think this should be okay. Pretty good curve to start with. No Omen Hawks to shut down their 2-1s and 3-1s, but certainly enough to get on board. Now, I'm kind of curious in this spot. I think we need to be in the mindset of just coming in and preventing all of the damage, so we'll go ahead and get the block. But it is kind of interesting to hold on to the Hound so that on turn 3 we have multiple units that get boosted by the Durand Sculptor. But I think this is good enough to just add the Durand Sculptor here, and then we can look to get the Charger down boosted this turn and be happy enough with it. Zinging. At all those bonus stats. Alright. Draven's best friend, the Fallen Rider. Now Sculptor turns up. Okay, I can get behind that. Like, you just have to assume at this point he's going to play the Risen Rider. The thing that's, you know, awkward with this is if he has something like Riven, right? And then we don't have the stat line to take the Riven down. I think we want to go after the Rider. The downside to this attack is if he has like a Mystic Shot, right? And he's able to Mystic Shot the bird so that it doesn't have the attack power needed to take the Rider off of the board. There's Riven. I'm just gonna add the bird. Like I don't think this is the attack to where we like really want to get involved with Three Sisters. Like I think that we can just take the damage on this round.
Even shattered hearts mend in time.
Is the flip that bad? Like, we can still flash freeze if we want, but that feels like something for a turn later in the game. Let's see. I'm just going to put the Omen Hawk in front to prevent a little bit of the damage. And then it's like, if he does have a way to give her, like, +4 attack, we can come in with the Three Sisters, but I think this is a play for a little bit later. Scary stuff, though. We do not have much to put on board. All right, here's the way the cookie crumbles. Sometimes you just gotta play the healing champion strength, if you will. We got removal spells coming in. I guess it's not horrible seeing the blowback roll through. But the positive to this is he's down to pretty much no cards in hand, right? J4 turns up at a timely moment. He's ready to fight Riven next turn. This turn, not so much.
Anything else?
Do we ever just put J4 on the board right now since he has the barrier? Let's wait. Let's see if he spends a little bit more mana.
Conflict awaits. Stay still.
So we can go to 5. I think that's okay. If he plays combat tricks, we still have the chance to grow. And then if he doesn't play any tricks, then we're still looking pretty strong. Like he's played one blowback at this point. It's kind of challenging to have an additional one. It's like maybe that should have been the flash freeze turn, but it just feels safe at 5. So now we have big options next turn. We have the Three Sisters if another Riven turns up. We got Three Sisters if Sion turns up. And if none of that nonsense rolls through, then we can look to champion strength. So we got to put a little bit of health in front of Sion, right? If he comes in with combat tricks, then that's a problem. And then if he kills off his own Sion, that's also a problem. But you know, if he does make that play to where he Mystic Shots his own Sion, we can take down the level 2 with the Cataclysm plus Jarvan. So maybe we just block him with the biggest non-Jarvan unit. So if he does, you know, chain off a bunch of combat tricks, then we have the biggest buffer of health. And now if he does come in and Mystic Shot the Sion, we can still just respond with Cataclysm.
Good steel and a good future.
Got a big old board now, though. So it's a little scarier than I wanted to give it credit.
And die.
How do we even win this game? It's got to be with champion strength, right? I mean, we still get to follow up with either the Cataclysm or the Gentleman's Duel. Our unit should have enough health to make their way through this Sion. That can't be the way to do it. Okay. Oh no, he gets to rally off of this, doesn't he? Oh shit! I was, I was. Oh, we just punted that one. He's got the 5 damage on board now. Oh fuck me, that was silly. I'm not certain how we were going to come in and win that game. I tell you exactly what I did. I just tunneled in on dealing with that Sion and then being like, okay, well, if the Sion is all that's going to get to attack, right? I just envisioned him rising from the grave and attacking on his own. It just immediately slipped my mind that he was going to get to attack with everything. Whoops. But that was tough. That was going to be a tough spot to recover from at any rate. We got very low in health. We maybe should have played the Three Sisters a little bit earlier. It's tough. Took a lot of Riven damage. Alright, into the next match though, up against Nilah Janna. Hopefully we can recover from our blunders and take down this one 2 in a row.
May Janna's will be done through me.
Alright, Mariam's on board. Very powerful curve out here with the birds into the Balin.
Oshlesh's power is mine to command. An exuberant flow.
Alright. No blocks on the Brash. I think we want to get Balin on board. Like, he's not the strongest attack for this turn. That would be out of the blocking Badger Bear.
I answer.
But if we get ourselves in this space to where we get to attack with Balin twice, then all of our Broadwings become real units again. This is still fine. Curious to see what happens on this upcoming turn if we're able to get the Badger Bear down before he attacks.
Elation and water.
Nope. But still not terrible. He goes into Temple, trying to decide if we want to play the Champion Strength this turn or not. I don't think we do. Like, he's going to have kind of a pop-off turn next turn, to where he's going to be drawing 2 slipstreams pretty much all the time, right? He's got 2 in the top 6. He gets to draw 2 cards next turn. It's very easy for him to have 1, and then the 1 draws into the second. I think we just want to get her off of the board and open attack, and then try and prepare for a Champion Strength 2 turns from now. Okay.
Oshlesh awaits.
And then reasonable draw with the Sculptor, right? Being on this plan of playing the Champion Strength next turn, just having any unit we can add to the board feels pretty good. There's the 2 slipstreams, sure thing.
All right, let's get to work. Joy, unbound and everlasting.
I think I'm still on board with this. It's like that Nilah is gonna flip though. That is a little scary when two of our units on the board are formidables. Maybe we should have just taken her down. Facing down a million cards now. Maybe that's the way we can almost pivot. That's it in lethal though. Can fall to 9 pretty safely.
Give me a day and you'll have 2.
We playing bilge rules.
Okay, then we'll keep the gentleman's duels in hand if we're going to be going into next turn, getting 2 hooks in and then trying to deal a bunch of Galio damage. I don't think we need to clear any of these units off the board, right? If we get the double hooks and then he's able to, yeah, we're 1 short. Well, we can do this. Hang on. How many damages is this? The full 5? So we can Gentleman's Duel in on Nilah. The thing with this next turn is we can technically get up to lethal with the Gentleman's Duel on Galio. We just play it and don't strike, and then we have 15 damage. It's a little dangerous to go that route, though. See if he plays any actions or if we get the chance to drop the duel. It's like if he starts targeting our birds to protect his units, then we definitely get the opportunity to duel. Goes over onto the sculptor. Okay, that's fine. We gotta win this fast though, right? He's up about 1,000 cards at this point. All right, we need you to do your thing, Galio. Sure. Gonna get him with the champion strength bird, huh? That's that's the angle we're looking to get the takedown on. The elephant's certainly scary. Right? We're gonna be champion strengthening, and then he should be able to play double removal spell. Well, he could probably only play 1, right? No, he does have 2. He picked up the invocation off of him. It looked like the 2 cards came out of the left. It's kind of a bummer. I was gonna say if you pick like if you pick the slow spell, the 5 damage burn and then the 3 damage and 1 to face. Maybe he did take Howling Gale off the yeah, I was gonna say off of the Helmsman. Maybe we'll power through this at some point. It's not looking good. I'm pretty certain we're just dead at this point. I mean, he's had like 5 and 6 turns of Sunken Temple. He's had a Wizened Helmsman down. I don't think we can recover out of this. That's brutal. But I mean, he's just going to keep casting burn spells onto Galio and on our units. We might get the time to find something. I don't think it's gonna be in the cards. I think our chances of recovering out of this are at 0.
Place your faith in me and your destiny shall unfold.
But that's the strength in Nilah Janna. It's certainly got the capabilities to beat anything. Okay, this one's done. Let's move on. That's tough. I'm not certain where that one went wrong. That feels like one that we should have been able to pick up. We had a lot of choices with the champion strengths in there, but it's tough. All right, into this one, we do see the Jax Ornn pop up. That's who we'll go ahead and take down. I don't think Akshan Pantheon is that bad. He does a lot of the problematic things, though, but okay. He's bringing the Pantheon icon with the Akshan Pantheon deck. I see how you do. I see how you do. All right, let's kick things off with Galio Jarvan. Give it a little icon thing. There we go. All right, reasonable enough start. Double Petricite Hounds now with the Sky Splitter and the Balin on the even attacks as well, so we should be able to pop off with these pretty quick. Sounds good. I remember Fernet. We played him in the top cut of the Eternal Open a few months back. Still out there kicking. But I think we can add in the Hound and still get to attack this turn. Ooh, it's interesting picking up the Badger Bear, but you know he wants to play action here, and we should be able to attack with both units into action. The question for this is going to be: do we continue to play on curve with the blocking Badger Bear, or do we save up the combat trick mana for the Sky Splitter? And I mean, as it stands, I'm not really impressed by the Saga Seeker. Like, I'm pretty willing to trade any of these units for a combat trick. So let's just boost everybody. It's as it stands with his Saga Seeker now, if he casts like a Pale Cascade on it, it's going to be big enough to kill Balin, right? That's kind of the downside to not being able to play Sky Splitter. But I think that we're just going to be able to get wider than him at this point and be pretty safe. And then when we roll around to our next attack on turn 6, we'll have the mana banked up and the Garen play, and hopefully we can just crash through there. Pantheon's annoying, though. I'll give him that. I'll give him that.
Why do you fight?
So we're gonna be trading Balin for a combat trick since Pantheon's almost certainly winning this matchup. But I want to make sure our formidables get these bonus stats. It doesn't feel like a good turn to just not do anything. But we can continue to grow. Our friend Galio turning up as well. Is this Pantheon really going to attack? I can't imagine this Pantheon attacks. Just getting the faded. Would have been a lot cooler if that was a J4. This would have been the perfect turn for J4. But he's not here to party with us. He's not here to do the battles. I think this is okay though. Nice chunk of damage rolling through. We're not at like the Pantheon OTK space. He's gonna flip next turn, right? And so I do hate that miserable moment of having to see if Pantheon's gonna roll in with his life steals and everything. But I think we're pretty safe at this point. Gentleman's duel. Hey, let's see how it looks. Brash, fearsome. Or is it gonna be elusive lifesteal? Didn't look like that good of a collection. Fearsome, regenerate, fury, augment, impact. Okay. Let's prevent some of it, then we're gonna come in and add Galio. Must be some magic about. Look at that, 40 health on the board. It's a big number. I did the mathematics on that and it came back factual. 40 is a big number. The other kind of interesting thing to watch out for is if this flurry of a turn next turn doesn't get it done. We do have the Gentleman's Duel in hand with Garen to potentially get 2 strikes in this turn to get the immediate rally next turn as well. So have to see how that goes. Ooh, J4 turns up. Let's do what's right. So we don't get the lethal right away, but we do get the rally out of this. Gonna lose our Jarvan as well, but I think this is okay. Curious. That's tough. If we should have, I don't know. I kind of like the J4 coming in. Our next attack is strong, but it doesn't show you the back line after this, right? To where all of the units come back in, and then Jarvan doesn't have the space, so he just gets removed from the board. Let's see what else he does. Maybe he comes in and kills Garen or something here. Double Right of Negation. What's that do? Cancel our rally? I mean, we have the strike in hand, so I think that's okay. 11, 16 on board. Okay. So that'll happen. J4 gets a little ripperoo. Now we can make sure Garen takes some damage, get the rally. He'll get the flip after the attack and stuff, so we'll get the attacks next turn as well. Oh, should be done at this point. Nice save though. Nice way to try and get out of that one. Scary stuff. All right, Formidables take the victory though. Onward and upward with Teemo Kayle. Let's see, reasonable enough curve. I don't think we need to hang on to the Tailstones, just to have access to the Hush early. That feels kind of greedy. I think we just want to come out of this as fast as we can with a good curve. Conchal just literally dies to everything. He doesn't fit into the good curve mindset. Squire on board. We'll add the Explorer as well.
Travel is, of course, its own reward.
See if Akshan comes to party this game. Such a different world when Akshan isn't here. Okay. He goes up to 4-4. Well, he's going to get the strike in. There's nothing we can do about that, but the Portal Pioneer getting to blow up the equipment's a pretty big deal here. This unit kind of sucks when it doesn't have when it doesn't have access to the equipment. Let's just let this roll through. Trying to think, like, we should have a pretty reasonable way to just get a bunch of 3-attack units on the board next turn. Like, I'm curious to see how big the cultist ends up getting. Or if it gets stuck with, like, fearsome. I can't imagine he puts fearsome on it. Tough works. So we're just going to have to attack through that guy. Do we want to start considering taking plus health? I think we want the plus health so we can continue to attack with this Yordle Explorer. We'll see what turns up. It's very easy for him to just play like a 3-3 that the like 3-3 that puts the landmark on the board, and so I didn't want the Explorer to just immediately die to everything.
Nothing like the great outdoors.
Ah, Bandle Scout Teemo, I presume.
That unit's kind of annoying.
So shiny, it's gotta be way strong.
So we'll send in what we can. We'll make this now 4-attack Yordle Squire, get him ready to combat these duders. I think this is okay. I mean, we're still feeling like pretty far away from getting the Zolani on board, but the youngling, it's quite the shutdown here. We got 4/4 Zolanis now, though. That's all we needed. Let's see, add 3 of 5 on Pantheon.
I do not break rules, I bend them slightly.
It's got +1 to awesome.
So we'll just go ahead and make the 2/4. You know, we can maybe threaten Akshan with this. It's, you know, it's not a wonderful spot to be trying to get in front of Akshan, but it might be enough to make him not attack, right? Spending I guess a Pale Cascade isn't enough, but cool. There we go. There's an attacker.
Spare the innocent, punish the wicked.
Ready, Hammer?
Bring him.
Hey,
Now these Zolani's gonna be growing, huh? It was the skins. It was the Sun Dragon, the Sun Eater. that's how we got here.
die, don't do terrible things.
Sure. It's a bit of a bummer that Kayle didn't flip. Amanda Wallop? Well, Wallop's not as spectacular in this space, given that if he's going to go big with Pantheon, it's a good chance Pantheon's going to have a spell shield, but Pantheon's not even flipped at this point.
Fixing the world one scoundrel at a time.
Just trying to help.
I see lies in words and truth in blood.
wallop does work with Zolani's though. If you get to wallop that blocker away. Not gonna have the mana for that kind of thing next turn if we add the second Zolani, which I think we're probably in line to do. But we'll see.
Righteously reclaiming.
Down to 2 mana at this point. I feel like that's pretty safe. You can't play combat tricks anymore, so you can't attack with action. You can play combat trick, you just can't. He only has 2 mana worth, right? So it's like a Pale Cascade at best. So what turns up? Portal Pioneer. I think it's who we want to play after combat. Right, I just feel like our chances of winning this turn are extremely low. It's like even adding in the Zolani, it just feels like it's a... it feels like it's just a not gonna happen kind of space. Maybe we do add in the Portal Pioneer first. Like, I'm looking at Portal Pioneer to pick the blow up a landmark, since we do have the wallop in hand to maybe deal with action. And then if you're not familiar with how these combats can go, we attack with everybody with Zolani out to the right. And then as the units to the left die, since they're going to be falling in combat, the Zolani will continue to grow. Now, I do suspect the Zolani's just never lethal this turn. That's why I didn't want to add the second one. Just too easy at this stage of the game after, you know, predicting 1,000 times and stuff for his for him to have access to a quicksand. And if quicksand's going to be the thing that stops us, you know, neither of our Zolanis are dealing damage this turn. Now, it's not to say that if his only card in hand was Hush, you know, he would be in pretty good shape for the Zolani to pop off, but I just feel like this is the safer way to go. Quick attack, elusive, challenger, spell shield, and brash.
Privateering? Good show.
So can we even attack with Kayle at this point? Like if we attack with Kayle and he blocks with Pantheon, has a combat trick, and takes the Kayle off the board, how bad is that? It would then come down to if he has a combat trick, which is likely, and something to boost Zolani. I don't like it.
This way, come along.
Stand up.
This is a fine block onto Zolani, though, right? As he continues to grow, he's still going to be able to overwhelm through Pantheon.
Hey, stop that.
So he's got the Hush. Which I think is okay. Again, it's still scary that this Pantheon picked up Spell Shield. There's not anything we can do about that. But at least our Kayle should get to flip. She has Overwhelm naturally. You can quicksand that Overwhelm off. You can't quicksand off empowered abilities, but you can do the keyword, so she'll end up losing Overwhelm. Okay. Action off the board. So go ahead and pop this Warlord's Horde. I'm curious to see if he's going to have the second action here to get another Horde on the board. Yep. Okay. It at least resets it. It should be a pretty good journey for this Warlord's Horde to come back down.
Holy fire, burn away the darkness.
Okay, not bad. Conchologist is a pretty reasonable draw in this space. Let's just go ahead and add it to the board. Not the greatest collection. I mean, it's got to be the Tricksy Tentacles, right? Just to get him to discard a card. I'm not really keen on the Mecha Yordles here, right? We're just going to be adding Zolani as soon as we can. Fey Aid doesn't do enough.
Let us take a peek at life beneath the waves.
Says, uh-oh. the discard is not what was supposed to be rolling in. I think we're okay here, right? I mean, he's going to get a... Interesting, he goes for the Rite of Negation onto the Tentacles.
Everyone should have a grappling hook.
He's got to just have a Hush, right? I think we want to wait to add the Zolani. Oh, did we mess this up? I failed to realize how close our Zolani was getting to flipping. Right, as we could have just attacked with the two 16/16s. If we'd blocked action with one of our dudes, we would have had the two 16/16 attack. It's not enough to... Well, that may not... That probably wouldn't have just been enough in general, right? I think this is okay. Going for the width here. Like, it's just... If we attack with the two 16s and then he has Quicksand to stop our damages, that's not enough. So we're not going to be able to add any of this stuff to the board this turn if we want to play Wallop. You could technically add a Combat Cook and then maybe hit Combat Reel, but I think that's a bit of a stretch. We just have to win the game this turn, or Pantheon's going to do us in.
Let's go. Grab my hat. Comb my mustache.
He's got Zolani, so we just win, right?
Some encouraging words.
We can wall up whatever's in front of Zolani and get the damage we need. I guess if he puts Pantheon in front of Zolani, that's not enough, but
Remember this.
looks like we're coming in for enough damages.
Stand up.
Says that's too much. GG. Victory unlocked.
Silence. How I will treasure it.
Next battle. Pantheon's interesting though in the sense that like they took Scout out of his kit because that was way too good, but it's tough to add keywords that Pantheon really wants, right? It was extremely strong when you're able to be like herpaderp. It's a Scout, lifesteal, overwhelm, challenger, elusive Pantheon. It was just like much closer to Foundations. All of the keywords were so much better, but now hitting stuff like brash is typically a bad one. I played a little bit of Pantheon right as the Fates Voyage Onward came out, and that was one of the things we're running into. Is like, oh boy, I got a brash, fearsome Pantheon. This is not what I was looking for. But all right, reasonable enough lineup here. To the left, this is the Yordle Jinx Bandle City discard aggro thing. Again, as we're talking about playing stuff like Frostcoat Cubs and 2/3s, this is the kind of matchup we're looking for there. We're here to play against Karma Sett or Seraphine Sett. This is fine. We'll just be banning out the Jax Ornn. Ooh, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I feel I've got my chest / voice isn't gonna make it. I might have to just play this match and then cut things out, and then as we get to the point to where we're gonna be in our final battles, we might kick it back up. It's just been weird. I don't know. I feel as the Thanksgiving holidays were here, and there's always a bunch of family and children running around, and on Thanksgiving 1, I definitely took like some hot blasts of little kid air like right to the face, and I was just like, oh fuck, I now have kid plague. I'm going to be sick for the next week. But I mean, I felt pretty good at Thanksgiving number 2 on Friday, and that had little kids as well, but didn't have little kids breathing directly in my face. now that we're here on Saturday, things feel a little bit better, you know. No little kids breathing air in my face, but I don't know. I used to smoke, and it feels like as you like smoke pack and a half a day. Like I had a really strong pack and a half a day a habit. You don't like realize how shitty you feel in the morning until it's like you go out drinking and you smoke your normal pack and a half, but then you smoke another pack while you're drinking, and you smoke like 2.5, 3 packs of cigarettes in the day, and you wake up the next day and you're just kind of like, fuck. Like the hangover is nothing compared to the way my lungs feel right now, and they don't hurt. They just feel like clogged up, like when that kind of thing happened. And I don't know, fam.
Better get the forge going.
All right, off to the races though. Interesting start with this double apprentice and the Frostcoat Cub. Like the immediate thought that I first had was like, okay, well he's gonna play a 1-drop. We'll just trade it with the apprentice to prevent the damage. I do like preventing every single point of damage that they can deal in this match. And then we'll play Frostcoat Cub on turn 2, and it's gonna be ready to come in for shutdowns. But now that we've also picked up Jax, I'm very interested in the prospects of double apprentice into Jax on turn 3. Because he just survives everything at that point, right? See, like, does he really attack into Frostcoat Cub here? He says, what the fuck is Bust playing? He's playing Frostcoat Cubs? This one easy trick, you know? One easy trick. All right, party time. That's a fun Jax right there. All right, not bad, not bad. Definitely getting into business here. So rip your whole team. Cool. It's got to be over at this point, right?
Jinx stands for Jinx.
Jinx coming in? Oof, that doesn't feel good. We ever just kill him? Like, we have the ferocity, but we don't have any equip units on the board.
You and you, switch. Let me change up my style.
I don't know if this Jax is going to make it, but this is going to be like a very heavy mana investment turn from the opponent. They just have to have like multiple Jinxes and blowbacks and shit in hand for it to play out like that. And so, right, you don't run out Jinx on turn 4. And so that was a kind of an interesting sequence to have happen there. And a fish fight. Let's make a big dude. Like, I kind of want a fish fight, but not off of Jax. Let's just hold off on that. See if he'll spend a little bit more mana. So he harpoons. Okay. I feel a little bit better about this. So we'll be at 10 after this. Protect our Jax. I don't want Jax falling to 2. I really want him to be flipping next turn. So, I mean, I think we're pretty safe at 10. He's got to give up his whole board now.
Name's Ornn. No further pleasantries needed.
Okay.
Fighting is my first language.
So there we go. There's the Jax flip. The Light of Acathia is going to get the Overwhelm. The Overwhelm is going to go onto Ornn since he's a big Overwhelm friend now. I suspect, you know, if he has the blowback or something, that can kill the Alpha Wild Claw, but this 18 Overwhelm is enough through everything else. GG. Okay. Bringing out, bringing up, bringing forth
Light burning.
the Yordles. So what do we got? Up against the Jinx deck again, we definitely want to come in and find some of our early plays. The Bandle Commandos are very good on turn 2 since they do let us start to develop the cheaper units, but I don't know if we want 2 of them. So I'm going to hang on to 1. Ideally, we'll find some other cheaper units. Yordle Squire is great. Maybe we'll pick up a Pie Toss or something on board. He has no 1 again. Painful.
You best believe I don't play. Ready, hammer?
Okay, and then this, you know, a lot of times playing against stuff like discard aggro, you don't want to come in and make the trades since it's very easy for them to get a bigger board than you. I don't think he's going to outboard us this game. Like, we're going to come across with this so fast with the Bandle City Mayor into the Hungry Owlcat and then just start getting a bunch of cheap dudes on board. Like, I feel like this space is just very much in our favor. Here, definitely taking an Explorer. The Portal Pioneer is, you know, kind of on theme, but I think we actually want the Scholarly Pioneer here. Being able to come in and hook things like Flame Chompers is a very powerful angle to have. Get a Bandle City Mayor Part 2. As far as these go, I'm leaning towards just the most expensive one in the Shark Trainer, right? I mean, we have just a metric fuck ton of stuff that we can do. And so I think that, you know, just picking the big unit is going to feel good. This is a pain in the ass. You know, we sequenced this mana to work to get the Pioneer on board, and opponent said no thank you. It's still okay, but not how it was intended to go. Guess we'll play a free Owlcat instead. He's found our Pioneer. So what do you even worry about at this point, right? It has to be Jinx. Jinx is the only thing that's really coming to mind to me as being scary. And I think we can fight through that okay. Let's go ahead and drop Conchologist. He's not very good here. But I think he gives us the chance to just get traded away now before Jinx comes on board and messes everything up. So she can't flip this turn. She's going to be able to flip next turn. A very interesting spot with the Pioneer, given we just picked up Pale Cascade and we have the Tiny Spear in hand. We should be able to get her off of the board. So let's go ahead and drop it. I'm going to take heal. Okay, now the question is, do we have to open attack, right? He just pie-tossed down our small unit. There's a very real chance that he doesn't have a way to flip this Jinx. I'm not going to risk it. Knowing that we have Pale Cascade, I think we're good to just... Oh, we are attacking, huh? Okay, well, prevent all the damage we can. But I think we're safe to just try and take this Jinx down.
Absolutely. Top hole.
I'm a little worried having him drop to 2 health, though. It's like if he's got if he has the second Jinx in hand, like how much do we even care in that space? Is that not? Oh, it's 3 or less power. Gotcha. So are we just opening?
Some encouraging words.
Right, we're just gonna give it one of these. He does have the blowback or something in hand to get the Jinx flipped, then we have the Pale Cascade ready. Otherwise, we just got her off the board. This card's pie toss down to 1 card. It's a great spot for us to be in.
Of course, expeditions lead to acquisitions.
All right. Good stuff. Still got a bit of work to do here, but he's got a pretty tall mountain to climb. And we got a 4/4 Zolani. That's the stuff I'm looking to put on the board.
Exploration and exportation.
Gotta assume we're good here. His attacks all kind of suck. He can trade away all of his flame chompers essentially to trade off, you know, with the Sump Dredger. It doesn't seem particularly good. And even like if he top decks a Jinx and starts hitting good stuff with Jinx, it still strikes me as a pretty tall
I should make a speech. Yes. Where's my speech?
pretty tall order.
I put it in your hat this morning.
Pick up the lifesteal unit and the Spectral Surveyor. Alright, so where are we at now? Zolani, you are so small. We'll just add in the Shark Trainer. I feel like that's got to be about enough. There may have... I don't know. I wasn't paying enough attention to see if there was a lethal with our silence thing. I've really kind of spaced out of this game. Sorry, but it is what it is.
Privateering? Good show.
You're up, Daladier.
All right, so it's not going to be lethal here, but he's gonna start interacting with our bigger units on board. Jinx probably needs to block something big, and if it's big enough to where she can survive, like blocking a Yordle Explorer, we can still Pale Cascade and get the Jinx off the board.
Stay still! I'm trying to shoot you! Boo!
So we're one short of the lethal this way. I think that's fine.
Retreating bravely!
All right, we've been death rocketed. That takes us to 13. I don't know. I mean, hitting like Mystic Shot, Death Rocket is still pretty short. He's got to play more cards at this point. At least the Death Rocket has to come in, so we can wait and then add units behind.
Bye-bye! How dare they!
I see lies in words and truth in blood!
All right, so there's Zolani. We'll get the Squire down. Gotta feel good. I'm gonna go shield on this one. I feel like the only way that we ever lose this game is if Zolani dies in some way,
I'll shoot the
and being able to shield the Zolani with the protection on the Pale Cascade, I think will get us close enough.
A capital idea!
So the Zolani won't grow off of this. It's kind of considering maybe we just block with the Yordle Explorer, but I think we can still come in next turn with the... Right, he's got to block all of our units, and so it's just going to be growing anyways.
It's got +1 to awesome!
Acquisitions commence!
Show him what I
All right, give it one of these. I'm not certain the Burn Sweet one would need to deal 10 from this space, but I don't think it exists. All right, GG, well played. On to the next battle, and so yeah, I've got to stop the commentary. I don't know. It's like I've got brain fog and my chest feels weird, and so we'll see. What I'm gonna do is I'll leave the recording going, and so if you actually want to come in and watch the games and see them happen and stuff, you can do that. I'll put down on the description stuff that there's going to be no commentary on some specific games. I'll mark those. And then as we get closer to the end and my voice gets a chance to recover and my chest can recover a bit, we'll start to talk through. And so we'll see what we can do from that point there. And okay, coming in for the recap, what a super frustrating match right at the end. And so, like, as far as our losses go and our wins, like, I'm not certain if 8-3 is good enough to get you to the top cut anymore. Like, it sounds like more and more and more and more recently, 8-3 records have been getting themselves in. Like, I don't know if that was just a function of people not playing as much Eternal, or that's just typically people I'm seeing in APAC and not realizing it. But it started to get to the point to where 8-3 starts to get there. Could be, dwindling numbers, whatever. But like, as far as our wins go, I felt like we played, pretty reasonably across the day. I don't think we ran into like any just completely ridiculous moments. But like, as far as our losses go, like the first one against the Riven guy, that was kind of completely on us. Like, that's probably a match we should be winning. We just played poorly in that one. The last match against Croc AI, that's completely fine. That's a lineup that is set up to be very strong against Jax Ornn. And he completely, face melted our Jax Ornn deck. Like, that's something that you're going to run across over the course of these events. You run against those kind of anti-Jax lineups once, not surprised, twice, it's kind of whatever. If you get completely knocked out by Jax Ornn, then or if you get knocked out by the anti-Jax Ornn lineup, you either just got a super low roll in terms of your lineup, or you just brought a bad lineup. And given the way things have been here recently, I didn't super expect Jax Ornn anti lineups to really be a thing. But we caught one. Big deal. It's not a big deal. It is what it is. But that match against Nilah Jinx is super super fucking tilting. Like, I don't expect you to have watched it. I'll pull up the match for just the recap moment to talk about it, since you probably didn't watch it. And we could stop and talk about this match real quick, since you probably didn't see it. I know it's kind of awkward not having commentary or sound in the middle, but my chest is what it is, and I couldn't deal with it. But nonetheless, we're up against Nilah Jinx. It's a reasonable matchup, especially with starts like this. Like, this is exactly what we're looking for in terms of playing against Nilah Jinx. They're playing a super discard aggro kind of version, and so they're going to be flooding the board with a bunch of 2/1s. Like, this is exactly what we're looking for, right? We have Frostcoat Cubs to block the various 2/1s and get 2-for-1s. He's playing a bunch of Forge Chiefs and shit, and then we have the innovative Blacksmith to start recovering in terms of our health. And then as the game progresses on, we do have this like very, very, very reasonable start into this matchup, right? We have the double Frostcoat Cub to come in and block this nonsense like Forge Chief. And then we have the double innovative Blacksmith to come in and recover. But as you kind of like scroll through the game, rolling into turn 3, you can see that he's completely going to empty out his hand, right? This is kind of like the dream scenario, if you will, in the sense that, he's going to be rolling into this next turn and being able to do like a, fairly powerful attack, right? He can hook our innovative Blacksmith out of combat. Then we basically have to block his 2/1 and then take 7 damage, knocking us down to 9. But at that point, he's completely out of cards in his hand, right? He doesn't have too much in terms of recovery tools. We can add the second Blacksmith to the board and start gaining health, or we can go 2-3 into Jax if that's the way it really goes. But like, what is the one card that would be an actual problem for an opponent rolling into turn 4 with 1 point of spell mana and no cards in hand? Jinx. And like, this is the most like fucking absurd top deck of the day. Like, I can't exactly scroll it to a particularly good point, but rolling into turn 4 against like this monumental like mountain that you have to climb up against, and then just immediately top decking Jinx, like, that is just a fucking shit show, right? Like, that's just like that's I don't know, like, you have your 3 and 34 chance to just win the game, and then you just lose the other 93% of the time. Like, it sucks so much to have like a clutch match. Like, this is probably it, right? This is probably a win and match. This is game 3 getting us up to 8 wins. We have this dominating position, and an opponent just fucking top decks Jinx right off the top. That was just like such a crappy way to go. Like, I think my face in the picture here, let me since it's probably covered up, like that sums it up very well. Like, the reaction face for what's happening here is is quite on point. Just being like, fucking really, this is the way our day is going to go. And so you know, I ultimately like wasn't disappointed to lose to Croc AI at the end, but to have like this nonsense, this bullshit game to where, you know, he completely empties his hand on turn 3. We have the way to gain the advantage. We have the life gain. We have the blockers. Like everything is going in our way. To have it just immediately top deck into Jinx and then to play against an anti-Jax lineup after that was just fucking frustrating. And so, you know, it is what it is. I guess it's just not your day sometimes, but that's the way it goes, I guess. And so, you know, to kind of recap, you know, I was happy with our lineup. I was happy with how this went. I think our read on the meta was pretty good. Not in every single match we played against Nilah, Janna, or Karma Sett, but in probably 5 or 6 of the matches we played against the 2 decks that we were trying to target. We got to ban out Jax Ornn time after time after time. We ran into a couple of matchups that weren't, you know, spectacular, but never spaces to where we felt completely out of it, right? The only match was the last one against Croc AI where he had the anti-Jax lineup, but I feel like our bead and our read on this format was quite good. I was super happy with how we, you know, approached formidables with the 3 sisters and have the various ways to stop the overwhelm units as those decks rolled through. Just that nonsense, those last 3 games that we had to play are just absolutely soul crushing. And so, you know, it is what it is. I didn't have my targets really set on making it to Worlds. You know, that's just the level of time and dedication it takes to add to the game. Just is not worth it to me. It's essentially a second job if you want to be good enough at the game to qualify for Worlds, and I don't have the intent to fight it that hard. But I feel like we can put in a good run on a good day and maybe come out and do some dream crushing, and then just running into matches like that were a bit of a pain. So kind of is what it is. We'll grind on from here and see how it goes. And so in terms of the grinding on from here and seeing how it goes, I'm not certain how these next 2 weeks are going to go. As it stands, I'm not certain what the gauntlet schedule looks like or what there is to do. I'll have like a commentary video on this. Like that's I know 2 things I'm wanting to do for the remainder of this patch is do kind of a recap of the patch, which I think was a fucking shit show, and then a recap of the year up to this point. I know that there's a new set coming out next month, and doing a year recap before the next set comes out is kind of awkward, but there's also just 2 weeks of nothing really going on in terms of the competitive scene. I'm not aware of any larger grassroots tournaments that are creeping up. Worlds isn't until next month, and so you can just kind of, you know, play standard for ladder points or something, or try and play, you know, 15-20 gauntlets so you can unlock a prismatic chest at the very end of the line. Like I'm not certain what the competitive crowd is meant to be doing. And so we may actually come in and look at some Path of Champions. I'm not certain where that stands. It's just, I'm not going to play freeform. Singleton only gets you so far. And I'm not certain what the end of the patch looks like. And it's always been a problem. I know like Majin Bay is like the biggest, you know, proponent and supporter of, hey, I'm trying to make content for a living. I'm trying to have a Legends of Runeterra site that focuses on the competitive community and tries to fuel this and actually be a business that's up and running. 25% of the month we have nothing to do, right? And so that's the way it typically is. As you have the open is typically next week, and then after the open leading up into the next set, there's air quotes nothing to do in terms of the competitive scene. Now there's 2 weeks, right? Since the open got pushed forward a week, and I'm not certain what to focus on in terms of competitive stuff. And so I don't know, we can come out and play meme decks, we can play Singleton, we can play Path of Champion. There's just not a clear path of something to grind towards, and without having that kind of goal, it gets kind of meh. And so we'll see. I still plan to come out and generate some of the content along the way, just not certain about how much that's actually going to be. So nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. So this is Busted Me. Thank you for being here.